Another entry in the long list of unmade Disney Star Wars projects has come to light. This time, it's a Kylo Ren focused movie directed by Steven Soderbergh and starring Adam Driver, which went by the awful title of The Hunt for Ben Solo. This movie was reported to be in development shortly after The Rise of Skywalker release, and apparently Kathleen Kennedy was all on board with it. And it was Bob Iger who said no because he didn't understand how Ben Solo could be alive. We'll ignore both the fact that bringing back a character who's just been killed off is stupid, and the fact that Kathleen Kennedy thought The Acolyte was a masterpiece, and instead look at the main character, Kylo Ren. It seems that most Star Wars fans from all sides of the fandom think that Ren is one of the best things about the sequel trilogy, that he's a really cool character whose potential was wasted on screen, but that's simply not the case. It would be like calling Dexter Jettster a wasted character. He isn't, because there is never any reason to think he would have a bigger influence on the story or a more fleshed out and complex character. Just like Finn, Kylo isn't a wasted opportunity because neither J.J. Abrams nor Rian Johnson had any clue who these characters were or how to use them. He wasn't wasted because waste would suggest he had some use or purpose in these films, which is clearly not the case. Like everything else in The Force Awakens, Ren is just a cheap copy of something from A New Hope. In this case, it's Darth Vader. He dresses in black, wears a helmet, and has a voice-changing mask despite not suffering from any breathing difficulties. His entrance into the trilogy is exactly the same as Vader's. He emerges from his ship in the middle of a firefight, striding through the smoke, surrounded by white armored stormtroopers, before accosting a rebel who's just sent away some super important information hidden in a droid. He then takes this rebel back to his ship and proceeds to torture him for information. It's a copy-paste of A New Hope, with all the menace and gravitas sapped out of it. Poe immediately starts mocking Ren with some awful Marvel humor, and he just stands feebly by and accepts it. In contrast, Darth Vader is an incredible villain. He's filled with rage and raw power, but it's all kept firmly in check. He never kills or destroys out of uncontrolled anger. He only ever executes his officers when they demonstrate singular incompetence, and he channels his rage into his writing to give him an edge without ever letting his emotions rule him. Kylo, on the other hand, is all emotion. He acts like a child who wants to be taken seriously, but trashes his room and picks petty fights with General Hux, rather than using his superior skills to prove to Snoke how valuable he is. There's nothing terrifying about him, he's more of a joke than anything. He's supposed to be some sort of reincarnation of Darth Vader, haunted by his grandfather's legacy, believing he'll never live up to it. A reverse retelling of Anakin's saga, but his backstory makes no sense. Anakin Skywalker was a tragic figure, with clear reasons for his fall to the dark side. He began life as an innocent slave boy on Tatooine, managing to stay kind and loving despite the cynicism and greed that surrounded him. He wanted to become a Jedi because he believed that he could help people in need throughout the galaxy. At least to begin with, he wasn't driven by power. His biggest fear was losing the people he loved. He lost Qui-Gon, the first father figure he'd ever known, just a few days after meeting him. Then he lost his mother. Despite his great skills as a Jedi, he was unable to save her, and in a fit of rage and grief he slaughtered the Tuscans, opening himself up to the dark side. Even then, he was still driven by his love for others, rushing to Geonosis to save his master Obi-Wan, despite the Council's orders. In Revenge of the Sith, he's driven by the fear that Padme will die, and turns to Palpatine to save her. Right until the end, he has the same motivation. He's redeemed by saving the life of someone he loves. This time, it's his son Luke. All throughout his life, Anakin struggled with the great power within him. He was the chosen one, prophesied to bring balance to the Force. He started training too late, and on reflection, Obi-Wan likely wasn't the best master, being too inexperienced himself. He's a classic tragic figure, whose fall to the dark side was caused by his desire to protect others. This is not the case with Kylo Ren. In contrast, he's a nasty, cruel, spiteful, immature, spoiled little brat. He's the son of Leia Organa and Han Solo, two huge figures in the rebellion, and his uncle is Luke Skywalker, the greatest Jedi alive. Unable to live up to their legacy, Ben rebels, giving up the name of a hero and choosing a new, darker one to go along with his edgy Luke. It's a classic case of teenage rebellion, which continues long into adulthood. His obsession with Vader makes no sense either. From a dark side point of view, Vader was a failure. He was second in command of the Galactic Empire, but gave it all up to save his son, dying in the process. No Sith would ever do that, and clearly Ben would know all about this from Luke, so why does he worship Vader's burnt mask? It would be like a Jedi making a shrine to Count Dooku. From everything that the sequel shows, it's clear that Kylo is just a Nepo baby. His family are famous, successful, and loved throughout the galaxy. He's never had to work for anything in his life, getting taken in by his uncle for training as soon as he shows signs of force sensitivity. He resents his more successful parents and knows that he can never live up to their expectations. So instead of trying his hardest, he crashes out and goes on an angry rebellion, joining forces with Snoke and the First Order to destroy everything his family fought for. He's not tragic, he's a whiny little failure with the mentality of a teenage boy. It's clear his entire personality is based around this inferiority, because even in The Rise of Skywalker, when Han and Luke are dead, he's Supreme Leader of the First Order, he still displays the same feeble personality, acting like a toddler who's just been told no. I won't bother going into the details of how stupid it is that Luke was apparently responsible for Ben's fall by attacking him in his sleep. That would take too long, and there are countless great videos on it out there. Simply put, it's a stupid plot point that would never really have happened with the real Luke. Kylo only has one person to blame for his failures, and that's himself. There are only two ways that you could have his story end in anything like a satisfying way. The first is that, in The Last Jedi, Snoke turns on him and takes Darth Vader as his new apprentice. Ren flees for his life and returns to Leia as the prodigal son, begging for forgiveness and promising to put things right. In The Rise of Skywalker, he then faces off against Snoke, because Palpatine never returned, kills him and Rey, and in the final scene, we see him on Tatooine at the Lars homestead. The old woman asks who he is, and he replies, "I'm Ben Skywalker." He embraces his heritage, takes Luke's blue lightsaber, and flies off in the Falcon to continue the Skywalker bloodline. He is the true Last Jedi. The second and more natural end for his story is that he continues his petulant rebellion, and Luke and Leia realize he's irredeemably evil, twisted by his own insecurities. So Luke and Rey go off to face against him and Snoke and take both of them out. There's no redemption for Ren because he's not a good person. He gets exactly what he deserves. The thing is, neither of these endings could ever happen though, because Kylo isn't a real character. There's nothing compelling or complex about him. He's just a cardboard cutout made to fill a gap. He's a prop in JJ's soft remake of the original trilogy, made even worse by Rian Johnson's boring attempts to subvert our expectations. He's exactly the same as Finn, a vaguely interesting character outline, just big enough to fit into one of JJ's mystery boxes. There's no wasted potential here because it was never designed to be anything more than a poor Vader cosplay. His main objective is to big up Rey, the same as everyone else in this trilogy. He spends all three films chasing around after her, despite having better things he could be doing. Even when he's offered a place at Palpatine's right hand, he still simps for Rey. No hypothetical movie about Ben Solo could have redeemed him, because there was nothing to redeem. The entire sequel trilogy was the hunt for Ben Solo, but we never found him because he doesn't exist. Ben Solo is just a pale, intangible shadow of a much greater character, one who'll live on forever in popular culture. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe, and leave a comment below with your thoughts on the hunt for Ben Solo. Would you have liked to see this film? I'll have more videos along soon, so look out for them. Until then, goodbye.